just share my screen and I'll get started. Alright, so as James and Quintin have alluded to earlier this morning, we're really seeing customers shift into contactless banking. While this was a trend that was already starting to accelerate prior to the pandemic has truly accelerated it at a pace like we've never seen before. And I think really what we're seeing is not just a shift to digital, but we're actually seeing shifts in business models. And as businesses have really needed to pivot largely to digital, but also in their business models in order to survive, right? And some of the examples that I'm showing on screen are from different industries like the food industry, the supermarket industry, the healthcare industry certainly, and even up to our schools. No? So many of us have felt this shift to digital and contactless across multiple, if not all, aspects of our lives. Even in our personal lives, many of us are seeing our relatives and connecting with them through Zoom and through different types of call platforms. Also, new ways of doing businesses have emerged, actually. Many of us are part of multiple Viber groups where people are selling different things that they have access to, or different things that they've learned to make, right? People have now become chefs and bakers at home and are selling on different Viber and Facebook groups. We're also seeing the emergence of live stream selling where unlike Viber, you're using video to explain products further and get people to interact on this new video streaming and live streaming platform. And then you also have media content subscription and tipping, where different people are using different platforms again to either give advice or to teach people how to do different things, and giving their tips. So I think all of this is really getting everyone to reimagine the possibilities that digital brings to the world, and requiring us to reinvent ourselves accordingly, right? Many people think it's as simple as taking what you used to do in the physical world and putting it on digital. But I think more and more brands and people are finding that we actually have to reimagine things completely and design experiences for digital differently, right? Whereas, for example, you might have held face-to-face events and have a captured audience for an hour. Now on digital, people are more distracted by different things, right? So what you would have said in an hour, you now need to say in maybe 10 minutes. So it's again a shift in terms of reimagining how we do things. And I like to flip this old saying around and say, sometimes good things come to those who don't wait, right? Many of you on the call may have seen this floating around early on in the pandemic as to who led your company's digital transformation. And for many, it is COVID-19 that has actually required them to pivot and started them on this digital transformation. For UnionBank, however, we are lucky that 4 years ago, we started our transformation journey. We recognized that digital was going to be really the strategy for the future that would help us navigate where we are headed. And I think now that the future is here, we're reaping the benefits of this transformation strategy. And it really has made us contactless experience ready. We put in place all the foundational items that allowed us to build the experiences that the public is now seeing us offer today. And at this point, I want to make a point about being contactless. When we say contactless experience, we are not referring to avoiding the experience of human feelings and interactions. When we say contactless, it is really because we are pushed through this pandemic to stay away physically. But we feel that the experience should still in fact, perhaps now even more, allow people to connect to each other. And I'll explain a little bit more as we go along. So as we transformed from day one, we were really able to service our clients through our work from home readiness platform. 90% of our employees from day one were able to work from home. And again, this is one way we're able to continue to connect to our clients, right? While they could not see us physically, as they were on video calls, ready from day one. We also had our digital account opening platform ready. So I think many of us, as the pandemic started, realized that we could not go physically to the bank branch anymore because bank branches were closed for the most part across the nation, right? And more than that, the lockdowns really prevented us from leaving our own house. So people were thinking of ways of how do I start to bank digitally. And of course, not everyone has a bank account. And so it was important for us to be able to emphasize that the first thing you need to do to be able to bank in a contactless environment is to open your account, right? And so we really highlighted that we had launched a digital account opening capability actually a year ago. And I'll show later on how this crisis actually really spurred the growth of the number of accounts opened on our platform. Another way we were contactless experience ready is we have the ability to clear checks digitally on our app. And this is not limited to just clearing UnionBank checks. We can clear any bank check on our app. Again, as the lockdowns came on quite abruptly, people were left with checks that they had not brought to the bank. And through this feature that we have on our app, they were still able to clear their checks and continue to do so. And so we're really seeing the adoption of this feature grow over the last few months. We also had invested in a relatively contactless experience in the branch. So we launched the ARC close to, I think, 3 years ago now. And in the ARC, we piloted a semi-contactless experience where you use an iPad to do most of your transactions, and you only have contact with the person, one, if you want it, and two, if you were handing over cash or a physical check. We also had machines that enabled our clients to do self-service banking without the need to talk to any person. This feature is one of my favorites, and this is really widely used today. It allows you to pre-stage a transaction in our app, right? So I'm sure many people are worried if they have to go to a branch for whatever reason today, that how much time would they need to spend in the branch? And so we have this ability for our clients to what we call pre-stage a transaction. They can input all the details of their transaction in our app from the safety of their own homes before they go to the branch, such that when they get to the branch, they just press a button that says, I am here, and they actually jump the queue and can be serviced immediately, limiting the face-to-face or physical time that they have to spend in the branch. I mentioned earlier that these features really have accelerated the sign-ups on our app. And you'll see here that if you compare March last year to March this year, the sign-ups on our app actually increased by 665%. And that was March to March. And as you can see from the trajectory, in July, we've more than doubled the March levels. So the sign-ups to the app and account opening have really grown exponentially over the last few months. We see the same trend in terms of digital accounts open, where March to March we saw 3,000 times the daily average of accounts open. And again, take a look at July, and it's over 3 times the March levels. So people really are taking up digital. They are, able to experience contactless banking, and we feel that these trends and trajectory are going to continue to go up over the next few months. The other thing is, as we invested in our digital transformation, as we invested in technology, we also invested in our people and our culture and our way of working, where we were able to implement an agile organization and way of working. And so this allowed us to really respond quickly to emerging needs. And this is where also I'd like to emphasize that contactless does not mean devoid of human contact. And so what we saw as the pandemic started is people needed to remit to their relatives back home or in the provinces, and they again were not able to get to the physical locations. And so while we saw a lot of these discussions on social media, we said we have the ability to respond quickly. We are an agile team, and given that we want to be able to give our customers the most relevant experiences, we can launch a remittance on our app, and we did that in 2 weeks' time. And so now, again, we're seeing a lot of take up on this, having processed close to billions of pesos on in terms of remittances for the public. We also saw that, as branch locations becomes less relevant now, people still have a need to sometimes deposit cash into an account. And so we said, why should we limit you to branch locations where you might have a 7-Eleven that is much closer to you, that you actually are already going there because you're buying essential items. And so we launched a deposit anywhere feature where you can deposit to a UnionBank account from any 7-Eleven branch nationwide, right? So this opened up 3,000 plus new locations to deposit to your account. On the corporate side, similarly, we have the portal, which is our award-winning corporate platform, and this platform is also seeing tremendous take-up, as you'll see on this slide, where we show that the enrollments throughout the months of March, April, and May far trumped the previous month's enrollments, right? As corporates themselves have felt the need to go digital and to do transactions remotely. So this is an interesting phenomenon that shows that contactless has already overtaken face-to-face transactions, right? So the orange line you're seeing here are the transactions on our app, and the blue line are the transactions in our branch. And as of May, we're already seeing that our UnionBank online transactions are surpassing branch transactions by the millions. And so let me just close off as we start off our question and answer section with this. This is our belief, right, that in an increasingly contactless world, the number of branches a bank has is less and less relevant. Customer choice is quickly shifting to favor those with a comprehensive digital service and those that have convenient and seamless experiences to offer on apps or other digital platforms. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anna, for that comprehensive presentation and very.
One thing we need to remember is that, again, I'd like to emphasize this point about people needing contact and people needing to connect, right? So what we are now looking at focusing on is how do we increase the ability for people to connect to other people as they're doing financial transactions, right, in a contactless world. So things like, when you're buying things on a Viber group, how do we design our receipts to be more friendly, right? How do we make it easier for people to transfer using QR code, for example? So actually, I think more than looking at what features we have, it's taking what we already have and redesigning it and repositioning it during this age. Because the truth is that most people don't really know the depth of services that are available in our app, right? So we're using this time to really highlight what we think would be helpful to the clients and show them different ways of using it in order to increase, again, connections, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but for me, I've made new friends through these Viber groups, and if had it not been for a contactless payment, I would not have met these people, right, and started a conversation.
Thanks, Anna. And I think it hits the nail on the head. This is the age of conversational commerce, not just digital transactions. And at the end of the day, the proof point that you showed about, digital transactions surpassing face-to-face has actually shown that. And yet you're still trying to find that balance with that human approach, regardless of whether or not it's a digital platform or some other social media venue. Now, the question I have is for those who are non-digital natives. I mean, you already have your first users, you already have your early adopters, but for the rest who are still, thinking about it, very full of trust issues and all that, how do you overcome those hindrances? And what are the key hindrances you found? And what is UnionBank doing to overcome that so the rest of us can migrate into the digital space with contactless banking?
I think that's a great question. And when we design our experience, actually, we look at the different customer groups that we are serving, and we design accordingly, right? And you are correct. So the app is great as an onboarding platform for digital natives and those who are completely comfortable on digital. But we realize that a huge segment of our target market and of the community is not so comfortable yet on digital. And so we have a hybrid approach where we have relationship managers who are equipped to open accounts from their homes on digital platforms, but their interaction with the customer is still face to face on video, for example, right? So some people need to be verbally coached, and also, told that and explained how things are safe online. And so our relationship managers still can deliver a very high touch approach, using the technology themselves to enable the account opening. No? So that's definitely one way we're helping. I think also we are, we've launched a lot of campaigns to pacify the worries of our customers. I think security is a big question for a lot of Filipinos. Is digital safe? Is it secure? So we've launched a lot of webinars. We have a lot of social media posts to explain how to safely navigate the digital world, right? Because the truth is, and I'm sure it's on many people's minds, there are scammers out there. And in fact, we had a series previous to this, just on that, on security, right? And it's in both our best interest and our customers' best interest to make sure that our customers are well educated about how to safely transact online. It is definitely safe, but you have to make sure that you yourself are practicing all of the safety protocol.
Thanks, Anna. That's a good assurance as well, because part of the risk of going to digital is that human interface is gone, and sometimes other companies will just have a chatbot at the end of the day that with a lot of AI and not a lot of human empathy and whatnot. So it's good to have that on the other line. It seems like you have the balance of both, and more importantly, the experience itself has been designed. Speaking of design, when you look at this COVID, and it looks like it's just going to be a perpetual disruption, not necessarily a one-time thing. It seems to be a marathon in terms of this new normal and these pandemics. You're also ahead of the curve. Tell us about what steps you're doing in terms of building in more empathy towards these apps and these customer relationship management experiences, so that you can make sure that the migration is seamless, safe, contactless, and at the same time growing that base for the bank itself.
Yeah, so we're constantly reviewing what we've launched, right? When we look at our design process, there are several layers to it. We always start with the customer and are led by the customer, which is why we have a purely digital and a hybrid approach, right? And then as we launch certain features, we study them. We use data, and to inform us on whether the design of the experience is good enough, if there's enough take up, and if there's not, then we go back to the drawing board, and figure out, okay, what could be causing the fact that there are a lot of potential complaints about something, or even why are people commending us about this, and how can we help others further, right? So we've employed what we call an agile development process, right, which is iterative. So it allows us to test, and then refine, and then deploy, test again, refine, and then deploy, right? And we have a rich pipeline of features that we look forward to actually launching to the public, and we're constantly also reviewing the order in which we deploy things, right? So I can share with you, for example, that remittance on the app was not something we had planned to launch in March. It was something we had planned to launch later on, but because we saw the need and we listened to the customer, right, and we were hearing it, we said, no, guys, let's stop whatever we're developing now. We need to launch this because this is a customer need that needs to go into the market earlier than we expected. And we expect that you're right. This is a marathon. We expect that we will learn about more things that need to perhaps be prioritized over others. And I think thanks to our agile way of working as part of our digital transformation, we are confident we're able to respond quickly to the market.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. And just to recap, the words that really resonate with me as a user, also as a non-digital native trying to get into that space, is really the iterative part. I mean, it's nice to be empathizing a design process in the beginning, but if it's a cyclical customer experience and you're constantly improving, then you can certainly make sure that it assures the customer that you're going to always anticipate his or her needs, given the fact that this is a prolonged experience where disruption is going to be the norm. So I appreciate that feedback that you are going to do this on a perpetual basis to make sure that the customer experience is seamless, but also ahead of the curve. Now, I think we've had a robust discussion. It seems to be actually a good warm-up for what we have next, which is having our media friends come over, because I'm sure a lot of them have a lot of questions in terms of the services and in depth that while you're seeing less branches or fewer branches because of the digital revolution, there would still be human touch. Moving forward, how would the talent requirement for banks like be? How the talent requirement given the balance, how would this change in light of this?
Apologies, I missed the word. How would the what requirement?
Yeah, how would the talent requirement for banks change? I suppose that the more humane touch, more than just the digital, is going to come into the forefront.
Yeah, so actually from the beginning of our transformation, we had already seen that the talent in the banks, the talent mix is changing, it's shifting, right? So we will still continue to have frontliners. I don't think branches are going to disappear completely in the near term, right? But I think that the relevance and the role of the branch, I should say, is going to change, right? And actually, that's our personal view now. The role of the branch is no longer just to process transactions. We think more and more the role of the branch is to help people convert to digital, right? So there alone, the talent in the branches, they've already had to transform, right? So before they were operations people, but now we view them more as digital advocates, helping people to adapt to technology and adapt to the new products perhaps that digital has to offer. And so that's also true across the bank. As you digitize, there are new opportunities that come up: data science, artificial intelligence, developers, of course. So these are all different types of talent that we've had to actually invest in the bank, and we continue to see that these roles will continue to grow in number in the bank. In fact, AJ and I a few years ago were product management people, and now we've had to pivot to become what we call customer experience managers and designers, right? And so we ourselves are not strangers to this role and talent transformation, and I think it's really a call to everybody within the bank. Everyone has had to transform, and it's opportunity, right? I don't think it should be looked at as that roles will disappear. No, roles are transforming, and more are actually being created.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anna. It seems to be like a really truly balanced approach where the technical and the humane coming together with the upskilling also down from the personal up to the executives. Now, one question, as this is on the client side this time, and I think this is perhaps for you, AJ, is that based on your customer interaction, what key pain points have you identified through this entire process of interacting with the clients when it comes to contactless banking, and how has the bank addressed these concerns? What were your top three, for example, that you've seen through this process?
I think that the biggest hint would be is really convincing them to go digital or to go contactless. That's the first one. course, onboarding is the first one. Second is making them more comfortable in using them. And then lastly, it's hopefully helping them spread the word, basically, of the convenience of doing contactless and digital banking. So for onboarding, it's really still that fear that online banking is not secure and everything. I mean, from our end, for security, we design our products and services with security in mind at the foremost. Of course, because people trust give Union Bank their trust that we will take care of their money. It's going to be there. They will be the only ones who have access to that. Next, second is we'll be there to be able to to provide you the services that you need when you need them. So when you need to send money to someone, even to any other banks, you can do it anytime. So it can be midnight, 7 a.m., 5 a.m., to, during lunchtime, we'll be there. So we try to get out of the way by being more reliable, more straight through, more much improved services. So that's how we think in how we do customer experience design. It's really a lot of things, but at the end of the day, we want to make it more convenient to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. It's seamless and painless, right? At the end of the day,
Yes.
all design thinking processes start with empathy. I think you guys have that, on hand. Now, actually, it's interesting. We have two questions that are of similar nature. One has to do with one of your partners, and I think I'm also one of those who use this facility. Think of it as an extended branch. This is none other than 7-Eleven. There's always a branch in every corner, in every city or barangay or village. The main question here that resonates through those questions is allowing deposits to 7-Eleven, those portals of those machines, and even the app itself they say it's a good move for bank users, even especially in rural areas, right? It's a good extension of your reach. For small businesses, is that a viable thing, or are you developing a product or another platform for that? Because it seems to be a very viable way of transacting. How is that partnership with 7-Eleven or that extension with 7-Eleven coming along?
So actually you can deposit to any Union Bank account, whether it's a personal SME or corporate account through the 7-Eleven platform. No? So our SMEs can actually already take advantage of this. In fact, we've seen some transactions coming in for what we would call as business purposes, right? We look at amounts and interview. We also do interviews of our clients, right, to find out why they're using it, so that we can again share the good news to others who might be able to use it for the same purpose. So I think that's definitely something SMEs can use.
Yeah, it's certainly give the coverage, right? And as you mentioned, there's a hybrid approach with the physical and the virtual. It seems to be a viable platform for you to use. Now, one question is Enzo Luna had a question, and he was just talking about the specific enrollment of accounts or devices. The normal practice is obviously go to the ATM. You covered that as well in terms of how many options you have. Going to the ATM to enroll in these transactions. Will it now be embedded online to be more convenient for bank customers to do so, especially if they can't go outside?
Well, Kitin, actually, when we designed the first version of Union Bank Online was designed to specifically meet this pain point. We made the registration and signing up self-service, and you can do it through your app or through the desktop. You don't have to go to the branch, fill out the form, nominate your user ID, then they'll approve it, they'll send you a password, then activate it to an ATM. No, you don't want that because we did that before. It was painful. A lot of customers are complaining of that kind of dynamic. So based on our studies, we look at other apps, not just banking apps. Self-service should be sign up should be self-service. And of course, by doing that, we don't sacrifice security. So we put in security measures. We put in multi-factor authentication to make sure that it is you that's signing up for that account. So that's how we executed Union Bank Online, and even all the other platforms. It's really mobile first, self-service, and you can do it anywhere, anytime.
Yeah, I think I guess that is the starting point, right? That's the starting point that there's all other future relationships you have is being able to enroll, and after that, it becomes a whole world and an ecosystem for the bank client, right? So, speaking of which, when you talk about digital transformation, another question has come up is not just for the individual client, but for MSMEs. As you know, the statistic we always bandy about at ANC is about 99.6% of all registered enterprises are MSMEs. And they're the ones who also want the bank, given the fact that they're trying to pivot in this digital world as well. How is the digital transformation improving how you are engaging with MSMEs, given their urgent needs in the pandemic?
Yeah, so we have a platform called Global Linker Quintin, where we're engaging SMEs and MSMEs to help them actually digitize, right? So it's quite a robust platform that helps these types of businesses open up web stores if they want, set up their websites, and it also helps to connect them to different services that they might need during this pandemic. And even in a normal business environment, right? We also, through our relationship manager force, if you will, we give SMEs access to experts, right? Who can advise them on what we're seeing as best practices in taking their businesses digital. And we're quite active also on the webinar space for SMEs. We join a lot of webinars, we host a lot of webinars, helping them to come to terms with what it means to be a digital business and how, and also giving them tips, right, on how again to digitize to survive this pandemic.
Okay, thanks, Anna. You know, at this point, we've got 10 more minutes for questions. I'd like to shift it live now. We have a dual platform here. Optionality is always good in these webinars. So at this point, I'd like to have some of the live questions come in. If you have any, please raise your hand, identify yourself, and we put you in touch with both Anna and AJ. Okay, so far we're still warming up, but yeah, one question that has come up though on the chat is the customer service experience, right? The idea that yes, CRM is always essential to any service industry, but the number one thing we see from both telcos and banks and services is the long queuing times. I mean, that's obviously a main pain point that you see. So how has the bank provided a more seamless experience? Not just a contact experience, but a seamless experience in terms of those queuing times and customer satisfaction fulfillment for people using the phone-in options.
Yeah, Quintin, so I'd first like to start with highlighting our engagement model, which is, and our belief, right, that we should design so that customers can figure out what issues they're encountering for themselves, right? So I think that's where we start. The way we've designed our experiences is that even if they encounter a problem on the app, let's say, that the error messages are friendly enough that it would help them figure out how to solve the problem for themselves, right? Now, if they're still unable to do that, then we have multiple channels for them to access service, right? We have chatbots, we've got our Facebook page and platform, and we've got certainly a call center. And I think, throughout this pandemic, many, as you mentioned, many companies have been quite challenged with getting phone calls and then having to experience long queuing time. The way that we actually were able to address this is we are one of the few banks, if not call centers, that enabled our agents to work from home. So there was no stoppage of service in our call center. We did not have to limit hours, say from 8 to 5, Monday to Friday. We didn't have any of that. We kept to our promise of 24/7 access to be able to speak to someone. And this was, again, enabled by us being prepared for a situation like this. We digitized the platforms and invested in CRMs that allowed our agents to access this data of our customers and service them safely and securely from home, no? So we're always looking for ways to improve that, and in fact, we've introduced some efficiencies in our systems over the last few weeks and months, because as you digitize, you'll also get, as you digitize and get more customers on your base, obviously you're going to potentially get people asking questions. And the good thing with us is we're seeing that a lot of the questions are also shifting to inquiries about our products and services rather than say a complaint or an issue that they need help resolving. Of course, we still have some of that, but we're happy to see that people are also asking us to explain more about products and services that we can offer, or perhaps even request for certain services to be built. And so we appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. It just seems to be more satisfying from the bank's perspective, but also from the customer's perspective, wherein now they're in the system, they already have gone over the learning curve, which is a little steep in the beginning. Now they're open up to a new world of opportunities in terms of where to invest their money, but at the same time, get a better sophistication of how to answer those queries, because it's always nice to see that happening in terms of customer education, and more importantly, banking and transactions. It's interesting that a lot of questions are still coming in via the 7-Eleven option, right? You can see here a lot of people still being in that hybrid mode, wherein a lot of the payments are going to be via convenience stores and whatnot. And one question that has come up a couple of times now, and perhaps AJ can also answer this, is the idea of depositing through the bank and through the counter and or through the app. Is there going to be a plan one day? Are you studying the option of having withdrawals beyond the deposits? Is that something that is conceivable, at least in the future, with 7-Eleven?
Yeah, I think we're already exploring this, and that's actually what the plan originally was. We planned to execute cashing in, meaning depositing to 7-Eleven first. Then the unfortunate pandemic happened, we got locked down, so we had to deprioritize that, and we had to prioritize cashing out to the remittance centers. We would love to have 7-Eleven on that and that kind of platform. So yes, that is being explored.
Yeah, thanks, AJ. And now from the individual clients who get the MSME client, you see where this is going, where the volume of interest is. This is specific that specifically has to do with your portal. From UnionBank's business banking platform, the portal, did you have an increase in business clients getting this contactless service during the pandemic? You see the chart in terms of the individual transaction, but as a subset or maybe a separate case study, how have your business clients grown through this set of options?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, one of the charts I showed, Quintin, was the growth in portal usage, and that came from both existing clients who have increased their business and transaction volume with us because of the ease of the use of the platform. But also we've seen a lot of new SMEs and large businesses alike opening accounts with us, right? And I think they're drawn to us because of the ease of use of the platform. But also because we have people that are able to help them remotely, right? I mentioned the relationship managers opening accounts from wherever they are. Whereas a corporate client in the past might have waited for someone to go and visit them physically, bring them forms, and help them open an account that way. This is obviously not possible in this environment. We've been able to still simulate that face-to-face experience just through video. And in fact, it's even easier because nobody has to sit in traffic and wait for people to show up for a meeting, right? So our clients can contact the relationship managers literally any time of day and have a conversation with them and open accounts virtually. So we have seen definitely a growth in volume for corporates and SMEs alike, both from existing and new clients.
Thank you very much, Adam. I mean, I think even from a business perspective, I think you've addressed both points. At the end of the day, you've got people to migrate to your platform, but at the same time, you've been able to increase not only the volume of entries, but also the growth of transactions, which means that the sustainability part is there as well. Not just getting in there as a leading indicator, but the lagging indicator of having people really grow their transactions online, which means that they're satisfied with your banking services. And I think those two are well taken. Now, my personal question while I'm waiting for the last question, because we have around 3 minutes left, is, this is a borderless, digital, contactless, seamless, platform. But there is a nuance in terms of engaging OFW. As a former OFW myself, I mean, how have you, empathized with and addressed some of their unique pain points, even if it really is universally borderless? How have you dealt with that kind of service, given the fact that they're 12% of GDP, and at the same time a growing portfolio for your bank?
Yeah, so we actually have a lot of OFW clients across our different products. And I think for one, the remittance functionality that we were able to launch really helped them. So those that were able to have, that either have accounts or had opened accounts digitally with us, were able to remit um, very seamlessly, no? So that's definitely, I think, one way. We continue to look for other ways to help them. And in fact, we hope to be able to enable the account opening for them more easily with as we iterate on our account opening, digital account opening feature.
Yeah, thanks so much, Adam. And that doesn't seem, it seems to be really the imperative now, the idea that, the economy that which did experience a recession needs all hands on deck in terms of support. Our OFWs have always been, a source of necessary critical revenue and growth for us. So that ease of doing business or ease of transactions is going to really help channel those funds into the Philippines.
If I may add,
Sure.
if I may add to that, no, I think one of the larger payments perhaps that OFWs are making and contributing to the country are tuition payments. And we actually power up the e-commerce of many of the large universities and schools in the Philippines. So we've also seen tremendous growth in digital tuition payments, and a large portion of that is coming from OFWs. No? So I think that has a big impact on our economy and also in enabling our students to continue to go to school.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. And I think one of the things I also noticed, apart from that spike, usually during the school year when people are remitting at that time, maybe like June or May or June, is now with with DepEd going to a hybrid model of in contactless also, and at the same time face to face. Now I think the remittances are coming in for them to buy these devices. So I think there's going to be a constant surge of influx of remittances because they want to make sure they put their children, their dependents, for this new normal of education. So I think having a bank that accepts all that seamlessly will be very helpful. We have one question as well coming up, and thankfully James has been kind enough to extend this for 5 more minutes given the volume of interest. One question that's come up from Lucky Magna from dailydose.net is about the ability to do online purchases in the spur of the moment. Now, that's something, my friend is the CEO of Lazada, and obviously that helps his business, but the idea of the responsible bank is also to how to help people manage their personal finances, not just being a platform for transactions to flow, but also to help educate people on personal finances. Is UnionBank also, developing programs or implementing programs that way so that responsible personal finance is also part of the equation?
Yes, Quintin. In fact, in a couple of weeks, we're releasing something that I just giving a hint, right? That will help people manage their finances better, no? So that's definitely part of what we see as our value add to our customers. We are seen as trusted advisors, and so we want to introduce more and more features that reflect this role that we can play in our customers' lives, right? And I invite everyone to just watch this space. In the next couple of weeks, something is coming out in relative to that. But you also mentioned, making transactions more seamless online and getting access to credit sooner. So we just launched a Lazada co-brand card a couple of weeks ago now, and one of the pain points that people had experienced in this pandemic is if you were applying for a card, it would never get delivered, right? Because everybody was on lockdown. So we did a couple of things actually in this space to make sure that customers could get access to credit as soon as possible. So we reinvented our card delivery model. We added a few new partners in the likes of the Grabs of this world. And so we were able to deliver our cards still during the pandemic. That's one. And second, with this Lazada partnership, as soon as you get approved, you have a virtual card ready in your app. And so you don't have to wait for the physical card, that will follow, but you can start shopping and accessing your credit line in pretty much real time after it's been approved, no? And again, a space to watch as we constantly iterate on that experience. There's more good stuff coming out soon.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. I mean, so certainly things to watch out for. One of the responsible personal finance education, which is quite critical in this economy, especially when constraints are there. But secondly, also the access to credit, especially with consumer spending. So that's certainly something to look forward to in a fortnight. Now, we do have a live question. Rizal Raul Reyes of This World has a question for us. Rizal Raul? I think you might be on mute, so please go ahead. I just unmute your mic. Okay, we're having a bit of technical difficulties.
Yeah, maybe while waiting, we can read some of the questions.
Sure. Let me see. Oh yeah, so one question that's come up also that's been queued here while the live question is queuing itself is the authentication process. I think one of the things on the back end side, which does take a little time, especially in terms of credit analysis and more importantly, approval of transactions. You mentioned the checking option, the check clearing option, but in terms of personal finance and also at the same time being able to access credit, how have you improved that back end in terms of the authentication process, so it's also quick and seamless? Is that an AJ or Anna? Please feel free to answer.
So yeah, so in terms of authentication, our KYC process for accounts open on the app is completely digital, actually. So for as long as everything checks the box, if you will, in terms of best in platforms on the back end that will automate and allow us to deliver real-time credit approvals, no, as much as possible. So again, this iterative process is really going to allow us to improve the experience consistently over time.
Thanks, Anna. AJ, did you want to add anything to that? I mean, just on the operation side, or before we move to the last question?
I think that what enabled those new processes and new platforms and then is our investments in improving our enterprise architecture, which was part of the original design of our digital transformation. So those are the foundations that we have laid in the past 3 years, and we're already getting the benefits of what we invested in. That covers a lot. That covers hardware, softwares, and tools that our application team, our solutions teams are using to enable businesses and also customer experience to deliver this new way of banking.
AJ, thank you very much. I mean, at this point, I just want to sum up before we close it, and that is, having a seamless contactless experience has a lot to do with, number one, empathizing with the customer. And if you're doing that on a regular basis, you certainly will be ahead of the curve. Your pain points will be eliminated, and more importantly, you've got this entire ecosystem of growing, clients and subscribers to your service that will stay with you. And from a banking perspective, that certainly is a set of ingredients for success. But from clients' perspective, then it becomes, a nice set of tools in which they can live their lives more safely, but at the same time more happily, more comfortably, especially since this pandemic will get into more disruption where safety is important, but at the same time quality of life is too. So with Leto to deliver the closing remarks. James?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Quintin, and thank you to our friends who have spent this morning with us. And I hope this was a very interesting topic for you as well to hear from Anna and AJ.
Jay and Anna for having me here and moderating this discussion. I think quite robust, and really more importantly, it lends to more interest as to what UnionBank can still offer to their clients. In fact, on that note, we're proud to introduce the next topic for our next e-talk tales next month is UBX, weaving banking into everyday life. We've had a few seeds of that already discussed today, and I'm sure that entire set of options, that panoply of experiences waiting for you will be there at the next e-talk tales. Now, thank you very much to our friends from media for participating in your wonderful questions. And more importantly, we're always going to be here for you in terms of looking at what we can do better for not only the industry, but also for the clients. So on behalf of James Ileto, Alan Delgado, AJ Atienza, and the entire UnionBank team, my name is Kitten Pastrana, and I thank you for being with us today. We'll see you all again next month. Keep safe and have a wonderful day. Thank you.